the market just dropped, which is actually very, very good. This is exactly what we wanted to see on Bitcoin before we get that extension. I know that sounds crazy. If Bitcoin or even Ethereum does well, the market as a whole will fall. This is especially true now that Bitcoin or Ethereum is so popular. Let's take a step back and remember that we look at this every day. There are some great deals on savings for projects. There are, of course, some of these old coins that are down a bit more than others. This is because there are outliers on both the ascending and descending trends. What I'm mostly interested in here is our usual point of view, which we talk about. The value of XRP is down almost 4%. In the same way, HBAR is down a pretty big amount, about 4%. Algo, 5% plus 1. Chainlink is down about 6%. The price of XLM is down about 5%. And that means that the average right now for these old coins is about 5%. It's not a crazy drop. It's not some crazy crash or something. But I do believe this is setting the market back. To put it simply, this is the start of the change in mood. This is still how the week looks. Again, there were still a lot of big wins in just 1 week. Now look at the graph again. Even after 1 week, most of these old coins aren't down that much. For example, XRP is only down 1.7%. And if we look at the list right now, Bitcoin is worth about 116,000, Ethereum is worth about 37,000, and XRP is worth about $3 and just under 2 cents. After that, the rest of the market, which includes SUI, XLM, and HBAR, is still moving around the support zones we looked at. So SUI is about $3.60, XLM is about 40 cents, and HBAR is about $25.50. But again, if we look at it on a weekly basis, this current move doesn't really worry us because Bitcoin and Ethereum are still up. XRP, on the other hand, is down 1.8% on the week. If we look at SUI, it is still green on the weekly XLM chart, even though it is down 3.9%. HBAR is still up 8.3% week to week as well. This new move doesn't really worry me. Do I think things will get a little worse now? I do believe things will get a little worse. We're going to talk about why. But all of this is part of the plan I told you about. Okay, the big thing I've been talking about for about 2 weeks now, okay? We have been talking about this repeat of the previous highs for Bitcoin at 118,000 over the past few months. After that, that nice little floor will form, and then we'll start to see that big break back to the upside. The most important question now is how long we have to wait for everything to happen. I said 2 weeks. Okay, if anything, I think the beginning of August will still be pretty dull, and Bitcoin might even lose a little more value. For the next 2 weeks, the main attention will be on some dull and maybe even bad price action. And then by the end of August, we should really start to bounce back and break back above 120,000 with the goal of reaching 130,000 or more for Bitcoin. Also fits with the FOMC meeting that is coming up in September. As for Bitcoin, not much has changed. What I was trying to say was that you should pay attention to the daily candle closes because the moment we lost 117K and the moment we started to wick down below some of these other wicks or even got the daily close like we did, that meant that the price was going to drop big time to 122,000. It's been 114,073 so far. We get back on track a bit. Again, this is how most sell-offs happen. Okay, it's like we can start to see that long winding way down. Now, just like May, okay, we get a nice rise, we cut, we chop some more, and then we finally got away. It had been 48 days since that high wick. It's been about 18 days now. I think it will take us a while to actually build a floor and maybe even reach that 122K level. Here's what I would say, and I just said it in a live stream. I told them to wait about 30 days, which would put it around the middle of August. This is when the floor should have been set and the price should have begun to rise again. But keep an eye out for a loss of 121K. If we lose 121K, things can get a lot worse very quickly. That's why I think 121K will hold. It looks like we'll just build a floor around that level. Again, this is why I kept telling you to keep some stable coins on hand as well, just in case there is any instability or a big drop in value. Because we kept cutting, we knew that Bitcoin was going to move. Okay, I'm okay with this result because even if we go back to the crypto market, let me quickly go over this again. So the market value of crypto is 3.79 quadrillion, and fear and greed have brought it down to 57. We need this. This is good for the market because most people are excited about all coins moving, and maybe around the middle of July is when it really began. It was getting a little exciting here. This whole season, everyone was very sure about calling, even though I said we were in phase 2. So now we are. Even though it's not yet fall, everyone was really excited. The old coins are all moving. This is now starting over. It's now 57 again. We're getting close to that middle area. We'd really like to see this drop to around $40. Getting this as low as possible is always good for us. It makes me think of this place, right? For example, the markets were too hot in March 2042 and we needed a restart. The process took a few months. You should know that it took us 6 months to finally get back down to around 20. We do not need to reach the 20 plus area. I'm okay with 55 or even 50. We start to feel better about ourselves again after that time though. In November, markets were once again too hot by the end of the month. Things began to change a little. Then, by about the end of January, we were back to the extremely scary levels. We should think about this because it's a great way to boost our mood. That's what I think this latest move did. And even with Bitcoin, we had a nice little drop at the start on the 30th. This is when the FOMC meeting happened. As we kept hearing from the Fed that they didn't know about a September rate cut, it was clear that everyone was stressed. It's not just CNBC that says the chances of the Fed cutting interest rates in September are going down. The odds are now only 41.3%, even if we go to CME Group. Should I be worried? No. I still think the rate will go down in September. As we get closer to September 17th, I think the chances of a rate cut will really start to rise again. I believe that everyone has now a good idea of what will happen next. They want to guess what will happen next. People keep talking about how unsure they are about the Fed, especially about the FOMC meeting and what will happen next. This is because, as we heard at that FOMC meeting, the Fed wasn't really that sure about rate cuts in the economy.